Beloved, when God lays his hands upon a woman, there is a weight of glory, a mark of distinction, and a divine fragrance that cannot be erased. Chosen by God is not ordinary. She is set apart, anointed, and appointed for such a time as this. Heaven recognizes her, hell trembles at her, and the earth is shifted by her presence. She may walk through valleys, but she carries the strength to rise. She may be underestimated by men. She is endorsed by God. Her journey is not defined by her pain, but by her purpose. Her tears are not wasted. They water the soil of her destiny. Her prayers shake foundations. Her faith moves mountains, and her obedience unlocks blessings. The world may not understand her. Heaven has already written her name in the story of victory. A woman chosen by God knows that storms are not sent to drown her, but to reveal her strength. She walks with dignity, clothed not in fashion, but in favor. She doesn't chase opportunities. Opportunities chase her because of the anointing she carries. She is a mother to nations, a voice to generations, a vessel of power, and a lighthouse in dark places. When you see her, you see resilience wrapped in grace. When you hear wisdom kissed by heaven. When you stand beside her, you feel courage that refuses to bow to fear. And when she prays, the heavens open and chains are broken. The signs of a woman chosen by God are not measured by popularity, but by her posture before the throne. She may not sit in palaces, but she reigns in authority. She may not have titles, but she carries the oil. She may not be seen by the crowd, but she is known in the courts of heaven. The hand of God upon your life is your validation. Your scars are proof of your survival. Your faith is the evidence of your calling, and your persistence is the reflection of your crown. You are more than a daughter, more than a wife, more than a mother. You are a chosen vessel of the Most High. When a woman is chosen by God, the seal upon her life is not stamped by men, nor is it determined by the applause of the crowd. Her identity is not wrapped up in the acceptance of people, nor is her worth diminished by their rejection. She carries something that cannot be purchased, imitated, or manufactured. It is the favor of the Lord. Divine favor is the invisible crown upon her head that cannot be stolen by critics, cannot be revoked by systems, and cannot be diminished by time. It is not tied to her background, her status, or her resources. It flows from heaven. It rests upon her spirit and announces her destiny even when others cannot see it. People may try to measure her by outward standards. They may question her qualifications, criticize her choices, or whisper about her past. But favor ignores all of that. Favor does not check credentials, it checks calling. Favor does not wait for permission. It moves with divine authority. Favor has the power to lift a woman from obscurity and place her in positions where even her enemies cannot deny her presence. Favor will open doors that education cannot open, create opportunities that connections cannot create, and sustain her when resources fail. Chosen woman walks in the confidence that her life is not a popularity contest. She is not enslaved to the shifting winds of opinion. She has learned that people's applause can be loud today and silent tomorrow. People can cheer when they benefit from her and criticize when she does not meet their expectations. But favor is steady. Favor is faithful. Favor is the hand of God guiding her steps, even in the wilderness. She may be overlooked by the crowd, but she is handpicked by the Creator. When God marks a woman with his favor, he covers her in grace that cannot be explained. She may not look like what people expected. She carries something greater than appearances. She may not have the loudest voice in the room, but when she speaks, wisdom flows. She may not have the richest background, but wealth follows her because of the assignment she carries. Divine favor redefines her story. Where people see limitations, God sees preparation. Where others see rejection, God sees protection. Where some see weakness, God releases strength. A chosen woman does not waste her energy trying to win human approval. She does not beg for acceptance in rooms where she was never meant to belong. She does not compromise her identity to fit into molds that others create. Instead, she stands boldly, clothed in favor, aware that if God is for her, who can be against her? She understands that her value is not in her popularity, but in her purpose. She is not desperate for validation because she already carries heaven's endorsement. Favor gives her resilience. Even when people plot against her, favor frustrates their plans. Even when opportunities seem scarce, favor makes a way. Even when life throws unexpected storms, favor keeps her anchored. She is marked by a divine covering that frustrates the enemy. He cannot figure out why she keeps rising after every fall, why she keeps smiling after every heartbreak, why she keeps walking forward after every setback. It is because favor sustains her when strength fails. Her story is not ordinary because favor writes every chapter. She can be like Esther, rising from obscurity to the palace. She can be like Hannah, weeping in prayer until God births a prophet through her. She can be like Mary, carrying the promise of heaven even when the world does not understand. She can be like Ruth, leaving behind the familiar to embrace the future. Divine favor aligns her life with divine assignments. Chosen woman understands that favor comes with weight. It is not just a blessing, it is a responsibility. Favor requires her to walk in humility because she knows the oil on her life is not her own doing. Favor requires her to persevere because the same God who favored her has also entrusted her with trials to strengthen her. Favor requires her to keep her eyes on the throne because if she begins to live for the approval of men, she will miss the purpose of God. The beauty of divine favor is that it silences the need for comparison. Chosen woman does not compete with others because she knows her lane is designed by God. She does not envy another's blessing because she knows her own is already secured. She is not shaken by those who seem further ahead because favor has an appointed time to elevate her. Her posture is not striving but trusting. She works diligently, but she also rests confidently, knowing that the same God who began the work in her will complete it. There will always be voices that try to reduce her worth. There will be people who misunderstand her calling. There will be moments when she feels invisible. But even in those moments, favor whispers, "You are chosen, you are seen, you are mine." Favor assures her that her steps are ordered, that her life is intentional. Nothing can separate her from the love and purpose of God. She knows that human approval is fragile. One mistake, one rumor, one shift in culture can turn admiration into criticism. But divine favor is eternal. It is rooted in God's sovereignty, not in human opinion. And because of that, she can walk boldly, live fully, and stand fearlessly. A chosen woman marked by divine favor becomes a living testimony. People may not understand how she made it through what should have destroyed her. They may not comprehend how doors opened that should have stayed closed. They may not grasp why she continues to shine in seasons where others have fallen apart. The answer is not her strength, not her brilliance, not her resources. It is favor. The favor of God is her secret, her covering, her portion. So she carries herself differently. She refuses to shrink to make others comfortable. She refuses to silence her voice to please the crowd. She refuses to bury her dreams because of fear. She rises each morning knowing that she is a chosen vessel, marked by favor, called for impact, destined for greatness. Divine favor does not exempt her from challenges, but it guarantees her victory. It does not mean she will never cry. It ensures that her tears will water her triumph. It does not mean she will never be rejected, but it ensures that rejection will redirect her to better. It does not mean she will never be underestimated, but it ensures that underestimation will only magnify the glory of God when she is revealed. Chosen woman is unstoppable not because of her own power, but because she carries heaven's endorsement. She does not bow to human approval because the favor of God has already written her story. She lives boldly, she prays fervently, she loves deeply, and she walks humbly, knowing that she is not defined by the voices of men, but by the voice of the one who chose her before the foundations of the world. And when you encounter such a woman, you will see it. You will see the glow of favor in her resilience, the fragrance of favor in her wisdom, power of favor in her faith. She may not always be recognized by people, but she is always recognized by heaven. She is a chosen woman, marked not by approval, but by divine favor. And that is more than enough. A woman chosen by God does not measure her life by the size of her struggles, but by the strength that comes out of them. The trials she faces are not designed to bury her. They are crafted to build her. Every storm, every heartbreak, every valley, every sleepless night is not evidence that she is forgotten. It is proof that she is in training. The very things that seem like obstacles are the instruments God uses to sharpen her spirit, stretch her faith, and prepare her for greater glory. Trials are not punishments, they are classrooms. They teach lessons that no book can contain and no teacher can fully explain. They shape character, deepen wisdom, and reveal the kind of endurance that only comes through fire. For a chosen woman, trials do not signal the end of her story. They mark the beginning of her transformation. They are not the graves of her dreams, but the soil in which her destiny takes root. When she walks through pain, she learns perseverance. When she faces betrayal, she learns discernment. When she endures loss, she learns gratitude for what remains. When she is misunderstood, she learns to stand firm in who she is. Every trial deposits strength into her spirit. Every struggle chisels away the parts of her that rely too heavily on comfort and pushes her to rely more on God. What others call failure, she calls formation. What others call setbacks, she calls stepping stones. The world may look at her struggles and think she is breaking. Heaven looks at her and sees her becoming. Every tear that falls from her eyes is watering the ground of her destiny. Every sleepless night becomes the seedbed of wisdom. Every battle becomes the training ground where she discovers the authority of her voice. She is not a victim of trials, she is a student of them. Her trials train her patience. They slow her down long enough to trust that timing is not in her control, but in God's. They force her to release her obsession with outcomes and surrender to a process that is greater than her. She learns that blessings that come too quickly can be lost just as quickly. But blessings that are birthed through fire are blessings that last. Trials also train her resilience. When she falls and rises again, she proves to herself and to the world that she is stronger than she imagined. She discovers that scars do not diminish beauty, they deepen it. She realizes that brokenness is not the end of her. It is the place where God's light shines through most clearly. What the enemy meant for harm becomes the very weapon God uses to elevate her. And through it all, her trials train her faith. Faith is not forged in comfort. It is forged in conflict. It is not tested in seasons of ease, but in moments of impossibility. When she has nothing left to lean on but God, she discovers that He is more than enough. When she faces doors that will not open, she learns that He is the waymaker. When she carries burdens too heavy for her, she learns that His strength is made perfect in her weakness. Trials strip away false securities until she is anchored in the one foundation that cannot be shaken. For a chosen woman, trials are not a surprise. They are a part of the calling. With every great purpose comes great preparation. With every high assignment comes deep training. She is not being punished, she is being prepared. She is not being diminished, she is being developed. Trials are the training grounds where ordinary women are transformed into extraordinary vessels of purpose. There is something powerful about a woman who has walked through trials and emerged with her faith intact. She speaks differently because she knows what it feels like to pray through pain. She carries herself differently because she knows what it feels like to rise from ashes. She leads differently because she knows what it feels like to walk alone and still keep moving. She does not speak from theory. She speaks from testimony. Her words carry weight because they have been birthed out of fire. The beauty of trials is that they reveal treasures hidden within her. Diamonds are formed under pressure. Gold is purified through fire. Strong roots are established through storms. In the same way, chosen woman's trials pull out the strength, wisdom, and courage that were already planted inside her but could not emerge in comfort. She does not become less because of what she has endured. She becomes more. She becomes deeper, stronger, wiser, and braver. Her trials remind her that she cannot lean on human approval, temporary pleasures, or fleeting success. They redirect her back to the eternal, back to the one who holds her future. They strip her of pride, of self-sufficiency, of shallow pursuits, till she learns that true success is not in escaping trials, but in enduring them with faith. She learns to stop asking, "Why me?" and starts asking, "What is this teaching me?" She shifts from victim to victor, from passive to purposeful, from broken to built. Sometimes the greatest blessing in her life is not the removal of the trial, but the revelation it produces. She learns who her real friends are. She learns what truly matters. She learns to let go of what she cannot control. She learns to rise even when the weight tries to crush her. She learns that she is not alone even when she feels abandoned. Trials introduce her to herself, the strong, resilient, courageous version of her that she did not know existed. And when she emerges from the training ground of trials, she carries a glow that no makeup can create, a wisdom that no classroom can teach, and a faith that no book can fully describe. She becomes an example to others, not because she never fell, because she kept rising, not because she never cried, but because she never quit, not because she avoided battles, because she learned to fight them with grace. A chosen woman's trials are not the end of her. They are the elevation of her. They do not bury her destiny. They reveal it. They do not weaken her spirit. They strengthen it. They do not diminish her worth. They magnify it. And when people look at her life, cannot understand how she survived what she went through. But she knows the answer. Her trials were her training ground, and her God was her strength. So she walks with her head high, not because life has been easy, but because she has been trained by fire. She prays with authority because she has never known struggle, but because she has learned the power of endurance. She inspires others, not because she has a perfect story, because she has a powerful testimony. Her trials are not her downfall. They are her building blocks. They are her spiritual gym. They are her divine classroom. They are her sacred training ground. And when the time comes for her to step fully into her calling, she will be ready, not in spite of her trials, but because of them. A chosen woman is not defined merely by what people see with their natural eyes. She is far more than her outward beauty, her career, her talents, or even her accomplishments. There is something deeper, something weightier, something eternal resting upon her life. She carries authority in the spirit realm. This authority is not self-made, nor is it inherited from family or bestowed by human institutions. It is divine, birthed out of intimacy with God, cultivated through prayer, proven in the furnace of trials. When she opens her mouth in prayer, the atmosphere shifts. Darkness that once loomed over her home, her children, her purpose begins to scatter. When she stands on the word of God, storms that raged against her begin to lose their power. She does not fight battles in her own strength. She fights clothed in the armor of heaven, armed with promises that cannot fail. Her authority is not loud or boastful, yet it is unshakable. It does not come from human recognition, but from heaven's endorsement. Authority in the spirit realm is the mark of someone who has walked with God through valleys, wrestled with Him in midnight hours, chosen to believe Him even when everything around screamed otherwise. This authority is forged in surrender. It is not given to those who rely only on their flesh, but to those who bend their will before the throne of God. A chosen woman knows that true power is not in control, but in submission. Submission to the one who holds all power. The authority she carries is evident in her prayers. She does not pray timidly, as though begging for scraps from heaven's table. She prays boldly, knowing she has access to the throne room of God. She prays with faith, not because of who she is, but because of who her Father is. When she calls on His name, heaven responds, angels move, and demons flee. The weight of her intercession shakes foundations because she is aligned with the authority of Christ Himself. She carries authority because she has learned to use her voice not for gossip, not for tearing down, but for declaring life. Her words are seasoned with wisdom. Her declarations are filled with power, and her affirmations are soaked in faith. When she speaks over her children, they are covered. When she speaks over her home, peace fills the rooms. When she speaks over her destiny, doors open that no man can shut. Her tongue is not reckless. It is a weapon, and she wields it with precision. Her authority is not only in her words, but in her presence. When she walks into a room, people feel a calm, a strength, or even a conviction that cannot be explained. She may not announce herself. The spirit realm recognizes her. Hell knows her name, not because she seeks fame, but because her prayers have torn down strongholds and her worship has shifted atmospheres. She carries an unseen influence that disrupts darkness wherever she goes. This authority is not something she stumbled into. It is the result of battles fought in secret, tears shed in silence, and victories won on her knees. Every time she chose forgiveness over bitterness, She grew in authority every time she trusted God instead of panicking. She grew in authority. Every time she resisted the lies of the enemy and clung to the truth of Scripture, she grew in authority. Authority is forged in obedience, and her consistent surrender has made her a vessel of spiritual power. The enemy trembles when she rises in the morning, not because of her physical strength, because of the authority she carries in the Spirit. He knows she will intercede for her family. He knows she will declare victory over her household. He knows she will worship through storms until they break. He knows she will resist his lies and choose faith over fear. Chosen woman is a terror to the kingdom of darkness because she refuses to bow. She also carries authority in the way she loves. Love is her weapon, disarms bitterness, breaks cycles of hate, and heals wounds that seemed impossible to mend. The enemy cannot defeat a woman who chooses love because love is the very nature of God. When she loves through pain, she demonstrates the authority of heaven. When she serves with humility, she demonstrates the authority of Christ, who came not to be served but to serve. The authority she carries is generational. It covers her children even when they wander. It protects her marriage even when it faces storms. It blesses her community even when they do not recognize it. Her authority is not limited to her. It overflows into those connected to her. Like a well that never runs dry, her prayers continue to water seeds long after she has planted them. Even after she is gone, her authority echoes in the lives of those she touched. She is not immune to battles. She still faces hardships, opposition, and trials. But the difference is how she faces them. She does not crumble under the weight of adversity. She rises under it. She does not give fear the final word. She silences it with faith. She does not allow darkness to intimidate her. She confronts it with light. She walks with the assurance that the one within her is greater than the one against her. Woman who carries authority in the spirit realm does not need a title to validate her. She does not need a platform to prove her influence. She may never stand on a stage or hold a microphone, yet her prayers behind closed doors carry more weight than speeches before crowds. She may never write books or lead organizations, yet her life becomes a living epistle read by all who encounter her. Authority is not about visibility, it is about impact. When you encounter her, you will notice something unexplainable. You will sense peace that cannot be shaken, hope that cannot be silenced, and courage that cannot be quenched. Her authority is not loud, but it is undeniable. She is a walking reminder that God entrusts his power to those who trust him fully. And perhaps the greatest evidence of her authority is her endurance. She does not quit when life gets hard. She does not retreat when battles intensify. She keeps pressing, keeps believing, keeps declaring, keeps loving, keeps worshiping. Her endurance is a testimony that authority is not a momentary burst of strength, but a consistent life anchored in God. So when you see her, do not underestimate her. She may appear ordinary, but she carries extraordinary weight in the spirit. She may not be famous, but she is feared by darkness. She may not be applauded, but she is endorsed by heaven. She carries authority in the spirit realm, and that authority changes everything. Her life is proof that a woman who walks with God cannot be silenced, cannot be stopped, and cannot be overlooked. Her authority flows not from herself, from the one who chose her, called her, and anointed her. She is a chosen woman, and she carries heaven's authority wherever she goes. A chosen woman does not define herself by the shifting winds of life, the mistakes of her past, or the opinions of others. Her identity is anchored in something far greater, something eternal, something unshakable. Her identity is rooted in God. Circumstances may rise and fall. Seasons may change. People may walk in and out of her life. Success may shine for a moment, and failures may cast their shadow. None of these things have the power to define who she is, because her true name, her true worth, her true identity is written by the hand of God himself. This kind of woman has learned the hard way that circumstances are too fragile to carry the weight of identity. If she builds her worth on beauty, what happens when time leaves its mark? If she builds her value on money, what happens when resources run dry? If she builds her sense of self on relationships, what happens when betrayal comes or people leave? If she builds her confidence on achievements, what happens when opportunities are denied? She has realized that anything built on temporary things will eventually collapse. That is why she anchors her identity in the eternal one who never changes. She knows who she is because she knows who she is. Her worth is not in what she does, but in who she belongs to. She belongs to God, the creator of the universe, the author of her story, the keeper of her soul. She wears his love like a crown and his grace like a garment. Her identity is not fragile because it is not tied to temporary measures. It is eternal, sealed in the presence of God, rooted in his unshakable truth. Life tells her she is not enough. She remembers she was fearfully and wonderfully made. When people label her according to her past, she remembers that God has called her redeemed. When failures whisper shame into her ear, she remembers that mercy rewrote her name. Her circumstances may shout one story, but God speaks another, and his word is final. She chooses to stand in his declaration rather than the temporary verdicts of life, because her identity is rooted in God. She walks with confidence even in uncertain seasons. She does not crumble when storms come because storms do not redefine her. She does not become arrogant when blessings come because blessings do not define her either. Her joy is not tied to what she has, but to who she is in Christ. Her peace is not tied to what is happening around her, but to who is living within her. She is unshaken, not because life is easy, because her roots go deep into the soil of God's presence. This identity gives her courage. She is not afraid of rejection because she knows she is already accepted by God. She is not intimidated by comparison because she knows she is uniquely designed for her own lane. She is not bound by insecurity because she knows she is chosen, loved, and valuable beyond measure. Circumstances may try to convince her otherwise, but she refuses to let her reality dictate her truth. She knows that truth is not defined by what she sees, but by what God has spoken. And yet, this identity is not arrogance. It is security. It is not pride. It is peace. She does not boast in herself. She boasts in the God who calls her his own. She does not elevate herself above others. Instead, her secure identity allows her to lift others up because she is not striving to prove her worth. She is free to serve, free to love, free to give without fear of losing herself. She cannot be manipulated by flattery or destroyed by criticism because neither one defines her. Only God does. Her life may not always reflect ease. She may face loss, betrayal, rejection, or hardship, but none of these things have the final say. She may walk through the fire, but the fire does not rename her. She may walk through the valley, but the valley does not erase her value. She may face storms that shake her, but storms cannot uproot her when her roots go deep. Her identity is not circumstantial. It is eternal. There's a quiet power in a woman who knows who she is in God. She is not desperate for validation. She does not compete with others. She does not chase applause. She is not swayed by trends or weakened by gossip. She stands firm even when misunderstood. She speaks with authority even when underestimated. She loves with strength even when unappreciated. She forgives even when forgiveness is not deserved. She continues forward, even when obstacles rise against her. Why? Because her sense of self is anchored in the one who cannot fail. Such a woman becomes dangerous to the enemy. He cannot control her with fear because she knows she is secure. He cannot deceive her with lies because she knows the truth of who she is. He cannot silence her with shame because she has already been redeemed. He cannot distract her with comparison because she is rooted in her own lane. Her identity in God makes her untouchable in ways that circumstances cannot undermine. When others see her, they may admire her strength, her resilience, or her confidence. But what they are really witnessing is the power of a rooted identity. She is like a tree planted by streams of living water, unmoved by drought, unshaken by storms, fruitful in every season. She knows who she is, and she does not apologize for it. She does not shrink back, nor does she exaggerate herself. She stands balanced, confident, and humble because her foundation is secure. Her story may include pain, but pain is not her name. Her past may include mistakes, Mistakes are not her identity. Her life may have seasons of scarcity, but scarcity is not her portion. Her worth is not on trial because the verdict has already been declared. She is loved, she is chosen, she is valuable, she is God's. And so when circumstances shift, when friends betray, when dreams are delayed, when doors close, she remains steady. She does not lose herself because she knows she cannot be lost in God. She does not break down in despair because she knows she is carried by His hand. She does not let the winds of life redefine her because her definition is eternal. She is a daughter of the Most High, a vessel of His glory, carrier of His image. That is her identity, and nothing can take it away. Her identity rooted in God becomes her anchor in storms, her compass in confusion, and her crown in battles. She does not measure herself by titles, possessions, or the approval of others. She measures herself by God's love, God's truth, God's purpose. She knows that circumstances may shift, but God's word is unchanging. And in that truth, she rests. Chosen woman does not live for herself alone. Her life is not confined to the limits of her own years or the boundaries of her own story. She is called to impact generations. The decisions she makes, the prayers she prays, the seeds she sows, and the faith she carries ripple far beyond her own lifetime. She is more than a daughter, more than a mother, more than a sister, more than a friend. She is a vessel of legacy. Her existence is a bridge between what was and what will be, between her ancestors' prayers and her descendants' victories. Generational impact is not measured in fame or recognition. It is measured in influence, in the unseen shifts that her life produces in the world around her. She may never stand on grand stages or be written into history books, but her choices create a history that cannot be erased. Every act of obedience, every word of encouragement, every sacrifice of love leaves footprints in the sands of time. She is not just living for the moment. She is planting seeds that will grow into trees under which others will sit long after she is gone. She is called to break cycles. Where her family line may have carried patterns of pain, poverty, or brokenness, she is anointed to stand as the one who says, "It stops with me." She refuses to let generational curses flow unchecked into the next line. Through prayer, faith, and wisdom, she becomes the wall that blocks destruction and the doorway that opens to blessing. Her children and her children's children will walk in freedom because she chose to fight battles they would never have to fight. Calling is not only to break cycles, but also to build legacies. She does not only stop the flow of what is destructive, she establishes the flow of what is divine. Her faith becomes the inheritance she passes on. Her integrity becomes the standard she leaves behind. Her prayers continue to cover her family long after her voice has been silenced. She understands that her influence is not temporary but eternal, shaping not only her household but the destiny of generations to come. A chosen woman impacts generations not always by doing extraordinary things, by doing ordinary things with extraordinary faithfulness. The meals she prepares, the conversations she has, the stories she tells, the comfort she gives, prayers she whispers. These become the threads that weave into the fabric of future lives. She may think her love is small, but in the hands of God, multiplies across time. She may think her prayers are hidden, but they echo in eternity. She is called to be a model. The little eyes that watch her learn what strength looks like by how she stands through storms. The ears that listen to her words learn what wisdom sounds like by how she speaks. The hearts that experience her love learn what God's heart feels like by how she nurtures. She is shaping lives, sometimes without realizing it. Her example becomes a silent sermon. Her faith becomes a living textbook. Her life becomes a testimony that others will follow. Generational impact is not limited to her family alone. She is called to touch her community, her nation, and even people she may never meet. The kindness she extends to strangers may plant seeds in lives that flourish years later. The wisdom she shares with younger women may guide them through decisions that change their entire futures. The courage she demonstrates may inspire others to rise when they feel like giving up. Her influence expands far beyond the borders of her own home. Because a chosen woman carries oil that overflows, she is also a generational voice. She may not think of herself as a prophet. Every time she speaks truth in love, every time she encourages the broken, every time she declares God's promises, She becomes a voice that echoes across time. Her words may outlive her, carried in the memories of her children, written in the hearts of those she mentored, passed down as wisdom to those she touched. She does not need a microphone for her voice to matter. Her voice matters because it carries heaven's weight. Calling to impact generations is not without struggle. The enemy knows that if he can silence her, he can hinder the flow of blessing into her lineage. That is why her battles often feel intense, why her trials seem heavy, why her opposition feels personal. What the enemy fails to realize is that every time she survives, she secures victory not just for herself, but for those coming after her. Every time she prays through tears, she lays a foundation for joy in the next generation. Every time she chooses faith over fear, she teaches her children to do the same. Every time she overcomes, she proves that her lineage is destined for triumph. She is called to think beyond herself. She understands that her yes to God is not only about her, it is about those who will walk paths she has cleared. Her sacrifice may feel heavy, but it lightens the load for those who come after. Her persistence may feel exhausting, but it paves the way for those who would otherwise have no path. She is sown into a harvest she may never fully see, yet she trusts that her impact will outlive her. Generational impact does not require perfection. She does not need to have all the answers, never make mistakes, or walk without stumbling. What it requires is consistency, faith, and surrender. Children and her community will not remember her flaws as much as they will remember her faith. They will not hold on to her failures as much as they will carry her prayers. They will not define her by her struggles as much as they will be shaped by her strength to rise again. And when her life comes to its close, the echo of her influence will remain. Her children will tell stories of her faith. Her grandchildren will carry the fruits of her prayers. Her community will remember her service. Her impact will stretch into places she never dreamed of because she was faithful in the little and trusted God with the increase. She may not see all the fruit. The seeds she planted will blossom long after she is gone. This is why she is called chosen, because her life is not about temporary success or fleeting applause. It is about eternal impact. She carries the future within her. She births not only children, but destinies. She nurtures not only bodies, but souls. She influences not only moments, but generations. Her name may never be known worldwide, but in heaven, her legacy resounds. She is remembered not for what she had, but for what she gave. She is celebrated not for her titles, but for her testimony. She is honored not for her perfection, but for her persistence. She is a chosen woman. She is called to impact generations.